Knives Sports Adventures here. I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while, which is a flashlight review. I did like a headlamp review of multiple headlamps a while back. I've been looking for a new flashlight, so I'm going to take you through the journey of what I've discovered here. So this is my general purpose headlamp. This is my ThruNite TH10 V2. This is the light I take with me when I'm traveling. I'm going to go mountain biking or something like that. It's throwy for a headlamp. This is essentially identical to ThruNite's thrower headlamp. I actually tried one of those recently as well. I don't know why they make both of them. They're essentially the same as far as beam pattern and modes and everything. This one happens to be warm white, so this will be my baseline. What I was looking for is something that's more of a thrower. So I have other headlamps that are really good floodlights. I have an Armytek that is actually my favorite headlamp for a floodlight. This was my previous thrower, but we just moved out into the country, and I want something that throws even more. And I wanted something that uses 18650 batteries, like a single 18650, because I already have a lot of those. So basically what I was looking for is a 18650 pocket thrower. And so I wanted as much throw as possible without having to go to a different battery format and buy new batteries and stuff like that. So this is what I came up with stuff that was readily available. And I'll take you through features of these and show you kind of interfaces and then do some beam shots. So this is a ThruNite TN12 Pro. This is a ThruNite BSS V5. Both of these are USB charging compatible, which the other lights are not. This is an Armytek Doberman Pro. This one is warm white. This is an Armytek Predator Pro, also in warm white. All the other lights are in cool white. And this is a AceBeam L17. So take you through these. I'll show you quickly the interfaces, and then we'll go from there. So this is one of the ThruNites, and the two ThruNites have the same interface, which I really actually like the interface. This is probably my favorite interface of all these flashlights, especially if you're looking for a thrower. Tail switch is single click. It's just the turbo mode, which is really nice because you don't have to fiddle with the modes. This switch on the front takes you through the other modes. So long press is your moonlight mode, your very lowest mode, and then quick press is whatever mode you set the memory to. And then if you quick press and then hold through the modes, it cycles through all the modes, and that's where you set your memory by turning it off. So really nice interface on this one. I like the fact that you have a button this way and a button this way, so you can turn it on either way. And I really, really like the turn it on to turbo mode with one click, because I was looking for a thrower. So that's this one. Again, this is the same interface. This bezel on the tactical light, the BSS, the ThruNite, is removable, which is nice because that would be heck in your pocket. On a weapon light, that's really good, but if you're going to carry this as a pocket light, you don't want that. I will say about these two, this button, if it's in the dark and you're fiddling around, this button is really hard to find in the dark. You can't even feel it very well with a bare hand. You'd certainly never find it with a glove. This one on the tactical light on the BSS has some raised ridges around the button. So there's a raised ridge around the USB port, raised ridge around the button. A lot easier to find in the dark, so this is the better ergonomic light. Like I said, interface is the same. We'll look at beam patterns here in a minute, but you can see even here, the TN12 is a lot more of a thrower than the BSS light. This is much more of a floodlight, which is not really what I was looking for. So that's those two. The Armyteks I will also group together because they also have the same interface. So the interface that they have is if the light... I don't like the interface on these. I will show you my favorite interface. My favorite interface is this headlamp. This is an Ace Beam H15. The interface is a physical knob, right? You turn it on with one click, and it is whatever brightness you set it to with the knob. You can turn this one-handed, right? You can turn it on to any brightness you want, whether that's middle, right? Whether that's high, whether that's low. You can turn it on to any brightness you want from completely off. It's a physical thing. You don't have to cycle through any modes to find what you want. This is a good interface. This is the other end of the spectrum. This is stupid. You get single click turbo mode, right? Good so far, right? If you want to access the other modes of the flashlight, you have to get two hands on the light, unscrew the head a quarter turn, and then you can cycle through the other modes of the flashlight. And you can do it with a quick press to set the memory, or you can cycle through it manually. That's kind of dumb in a tactical light. The last thing you want in a tactical light is to have to take your other hand off of your weapon or whatever else you're doing and fiddle with your flashlight with two hands. Don't like that interface. It works okay, it's effective, but I mean, at least give me a second button where I can cycle through the modes with one hand while I'm doing something with my other hand. So, nice lights. All of these are good quality. I like the raised tail switch that's easy to feel. That would get turned on kind of easily if you had it in a bag or something, though. So some people might not like that. I prefer this guarded tail cap with the side edges here. I just feel like I can get my thumb on that really easy, but it's a lot less likely to get bumped accidentally. So not a huge fan of the interface on these two. This is the ThruNite L17. I like this slightly better, but it's still not perfect. This is the most throwy of the lights. You can see it's a very tight spot, very little spill. But you can't turn it on single click to turbo mode. You can set the memory, right? I can turn it on, I can hold press through all the modes, right? If I turn it to low, then wherever I leave it and turn it off, that sets the memory. It comes back on there, great. I can do that with any mode except for turbo mode. And this is a dedicated thrower light, so you're gonna use it 99% of the time in turbo mode. So why would you make an interface that doesn't allow you to turn it on one click to turbo mode? Pretty dumb, right? I like that you can turn this on one click to turbo mode. I don't like the other interfaces there. I guess with a thrower, that's probably the best, a decent compromise, but again, neither of these are perfect. This is really good. I like this interface a lot better. So I won't go into a lot of the quality and stuff because there's so many of these lights out there now that are all really good quality. You know, these have kind of a smoother finish. I like the fact that the ThruNites come in different colors. I definitely like the fact that they have USB chargers. I don't like magnetic chargers like you have on the Doberman. This seems like a really cool idea until you're traveling somewhere where you're not at home, right? I can pick up a charger for this light at any gas station anywhere in the United States or pretty much anywhere in the world because it's a USB-C. If I leave home and forget my charging cable for this light, I either better hope I packed an 18650 charger, which is an extra item the size of the flashlight, or I have to order an extra cable from Armytek because this is not a standard cable of any type. If I want to charge my flashlight. Stuff like that's not readily available. It's just not a good system, right? I don't mind taking the batteries out of these if I have to charge them. You know, USB plug on a magnetic charger is not any faster charging than a USB-C. So it's the same USB cord, right? So this is a much better solution than a magnetic charging cap. This is nice because it just, you know, it snaps on and off, but if you're using the light anywhere but at home, magnetic charging cable is just not a real great solution to me. So I'm not a fan of that. I much prefer these. I'd rather have a light, you know, I almost rather see no magnetic charging port, although it's kind of nice to have the option, I guess. So that's what I think of the lights and the interfaces. I'm going to open the garage door over here and we'll look at the beam patterns. So my through night TH10 V2 is the standard that I will compare these to. I'm going to pull the camera out here and we'll go to the edge of the garage. And I'm going to set the camera here. So what I have here, let me get this set where I can see everything. That is that. Okay, so you can't see horribly well here. So out there you can see a little bit. Those trees are 50 yards away. This tree here is 20 yards away. And way out there, there's some trees that are 100 yards away. So this is my standard TH10 V2, the through night. Let's go through the other one. So this is the through night TN12 Pro turbo mode. Here it is at 20 yards. You can see it's a pretty defined spot. 50 yards you're out there, I can actually see those trees pretty well. I don't know if you can pick it up very well on the camera, but that's a good beam at 50 yards. At 100 yards, it's starting to struggle a little bit, but I can still see it pretty decently. I could see if there was an animal in those trees at 100 yards. The BSS V5 is a lot more of a flood. You can see it, that's a big spot on the trees at 20 yards. 50 yards, it's more of a large area. You know, those trees are probably 20 yards wide and I can see the whole thing at 50 yards. 100 yards, it's pretty dark. I can't really see very well at 100 yards with this. Let's look at the Armyteks. Here's the Doberman, 20 yards, kind of a nice spot with fill. 50 yards I can see pretty well with the naked eye, and 100 yards I can't see. You know, it's less than the TN12, so it's not as great at 100 yards. Again, I don't know how well you can see on the camera. I'll check the video later. I'm still going to post this regardless though. This is the Predator Pro on turbo, 20 yards, pretty good spot with a decent fill. 50 yards, it's still a good spot, but the spill is better than some of the other lights. 100 yards I can actually see pretty good with this. So this is on par with the TN12 at 100 yards. I'll shoot it again just in case this looks better on the camera later than it does to my naked eye on the camera. I would say that the Predator is probably a little bit better at 100 yards than the TN12, even though the Predator is a warm light and not a cool light, so it loses some of the brightness. And here is the Ace Beam L17. There's turbo. You can see that's a very bright spot. It's a very defined spot with not a lot of spill at 20 yards. If I go out to 50 yards, it's still a pretty good spot, and you can see that clearly at 50 yards even on the camera. So it shows you how much more of a thrower this is. 100 yards, yeah, you can even see this at 100 yards on the camera. So this is definitely the best thrower, and I can see clearly in those woods at 100 yards with this light. So if you're looking for something you can spot an animal with in a woods line 100 yards away, this is definitely much more of a functional light with this one. I'll go through them again here at 100. There's the trees in the middle there at 100. There's the TN12 at 50. This is the BSS at 50, much wider, spill. There's the Doberman at 50. wide spill. And here's the venerable TH10V2 at 50. That's actually a pretty good light at 50. I don't know if you can see very well on the camera again. So there's what they look. Alright, I'm back here. Quick conclusion. Sorry I had my camera turned off because it was too hot during the beam testing, but I was pretty much done. So in conclusion, my favorite three of all those lights are these three. This is the Predator Pro, the ThruNite TN12 Pro, and the AceBeam L17. This one, the TN12, has good throw, but it has probably the most even beam pattern, so it's good for lighting up a decently large area too. The Predator has slightly better throw than this, with a slightly narrower spot and slightly less bright spill. So this is, again, slightly better thrower, slightly brighter at distance, even with the warm white LED, than the TN12. But the absolute king of the throwers is the AceBeam L17. You know, single 18650 thrower. This is definitely a step above the other ones. It's a much tighter beam, much brighter at distance. So if you're looking for a pure thrower, this definitely has the best beam pattern, despite the slightly annoying interface. This one you can at least turn on to full beam, full turbo from off. This one you can do whatever you want. So best interface, best thrower, probably best all around between thrower and spill. So those are my conclusions. I'll probably be keeping all of these three lights and sending the other ones back. So those are my conclusions, and keep adventuring.